More devastating consequences from the wave of illegal alien murders that Joe Biden is letting into our country. 12-year-old Jocelyn Ngari was just starting her life, you see her there, when two illegal immigrants from Venezuela lured her away from her home, taking her to a bridge where they took off her pants, tied her up, and brutally strangled her to death. She was there for 2 hours. And then they carelessly dumped her body into a creek. Those two migrant monsters are now charged with Jocelyn's kidnapping and murder. Prosecutors are asking for a $1 million bail for each of them separately. And if this doesn't sound like deja vu, both were caught by border agents earlier this year, caught and released. Remember how the illegals in Rachel Morin's murder and the rape of a 13-year-old girl in New York City were also released into the country? A Houston Police Union chief is blasting Joe Biden for letting in a wave of illegal killers.
They should not have been allowed to be in the country. We have our own, basically homegrown criminals that we have to deal with. And then you couple that with other individuals coming from different countries and entering illegally into the state and into our city, and they're committing some violent acts. This is just another glaring a glaring act that have been committed on the citizens of Houston by people who've crossed this border illegally.
So, Jesse, an Ecuadorian illegal caught and released rapes a 13-year-old here in New York. Then you move to two Venezuelan illegals caught and released, and then they go on to kill someone. So it's catch, release, and in some cases, assault and murder.
Yeah, Biden migrants are exploding all inside our country like IEDs. It feels like a terror attack to me. And Joe Biden is catching and releasing killers and rapists. They're pouring into the country, and they're committing heinous crimes. These are not your typical criminals, Kaylee. They're strangling girls with their bare hands. That means you're feeling and watching the life leave a body. That's some sick, sadistic, bestial stuff right there. And then they're bashing their heads in with rocks. They're leaving bodies in creeks, in woods, and running trails. They're tying women up and raping them and recording it on their phones and watching it later. I mean, these are serial sexual predators. They're serial killers, and they don't belong here. These are third world animals. And this is going to detonate every single week, just like this, until the election. And there's no way the media is going to be able to keep a lid on this stuff. On local media markets, this is exploding right now. On social media, it is searing through the country. Fox is covering it. The Republican nominee for president is mentioning these names at rallies. He's calling the families. Sometimes he's meeting with the families. Joe Biden cannot sit back in silence and point fingers here. This is now a national security threat, and it should be treated like that.
It should. I mean, look at this face, Katie. That is Jocelyn Ngari. I went to bed last night, and then you wake up and you hear about her, and her mom put her to bed, and then she wakes up and her daughter's gone. Laken Riley goes for a run. Yeah. Rachel Morin has 5 sweet babies that now don't have a mom. What names are we going to learn in the coming days? Like, it makes me scared living here, anyone in the country.
Absolutely. What is the price that the Biden administration is willing to pay? These killers came over and said that they were released because they said they were fearing for their lives, and yet they were released into the country. If Donald Trump has gotten a lot of heat from people in the media for saying he's too harsh on this issue. He's categorizing these people inappropriately. He's saying they're coming from prisons, that they're criminals, that they're rapists and murderers. Well, there's a whole lot of them, and there's no excuse for a single one of them to be here. And yet they're committing crime after crime. And these are the most horrific crimes. But there's also other crimes that change people's lives. Hit and run accidents, drunk driving, theft going up in a number of places all over the country. People having to pay for their own accidents because these people don't have car insurance and they're driving illegally. It continues to go on. And Donald Trump would get on the phone with someone in Venezuela and say, if you don't stop sending these criminals here, you're going to pay for it, and you're going to pay for it in a really harsh way. Get it under control. And the idea now that you have a majority of people saying they want deportations is because of exactly stuff like this. People know people this is happening to, and they're tired of it, and they don't want their kids or their wife or a family member to be next. Or just another story, I believe, out of Colorado of an illegal immigrant who killed a grandfather. Innocent Americans are suffering as a result of this crisis that the Biden administration has created and opened the floodgates, and they are not trying to do anything to fix it.
All across the country. And the aider and abetter of all of this, Greg, is the media. This headline's astonishing. This is how the Associated Press, they're a wire service, so a lot of other outlets take their headline and run with it. And you see it here, 2 men arrested in strangulation of 12-year-old Houston girl. They were illegal immigrants, and they leave that detail out.
Yeah, and how do they even know they're men? Did they ask them what they identified with? That's
question.
outrageous. You know, the left always says silence equals death, except they don't say that here when it's real. You keep quiet about these murders, more of them will come. Silence equals death. But it's the media, oddly, that's enforcing the overall silence. If only these victims were trans, indigenous, two-spirit animals, the culprits were cops, off-duty cops in MAGA hats, this would be on a loop. But as it stands right now, this story has a lid on it, like Joe Biden every day. I think the message you get from the media is that they don't value the victims unless they fit a progressive narrative. They will have you believe that thousands of unarmed black men were killed by police officers every year, which is false, or thousands of teens will kill themselves without access to genital mutilation, all false. But when you have real examples of successive stories of horrible tragedy, nothing to see here. American girls and moms, they don't have the cachet of an ex-con flooded with drugs or a pro-Hamas protester pushed aside by a cop. It's no wonder Dems are losing women from their party, because America is just losing women, period. I got to say, though, you have to remember all this stuff, because if Trump wins, and it looks like it's going to happen, I don't know, and the deportations begin, what are you going to hear from the media? Mm-hmm. You're going to have the tears of AOC at the border. Oh, yeah. You're going to be accused of lack of empathy, lack of compassion, and they're going to pretend like none of this ever happened, because that's happened before.
Yeah, that's right. You know, Kevin, Joe Biden has a few choices. He could say the name Rachel Morin. He could say the name Jocelyn Nungari. He could call the families. He could pick up his pen. It's probably not pink, but he could pick up his pen and sign the 84 executive actions he shredded in the first 100 days of his presidency. Why doesn't he do any one of those 3 things?
Listen, this is just horrific at the end of the day. I mean, the way that Jesse described what these 2 individuals did to this 12-year-old girl in Texas, the young girl getting raped in New York. I'm a Democrat, but I'm an American first. And there's no excuse to have these individuals here in this country. I think I don't necessarily want to go down the politics route. I hate to make politics out of this. I think the president is in a bind with the left of my party in terms of the pro-immigration community. He signed this executive order, getting a lot of grief from the left of my party about it, right? We've seen deportations increase since then. We've seen a 20% decrease in migrants crossing that border. I think that's a positive step. To Katie's point, we've got to remove these elements from our society 100%. They have no business being in this country. These criminal gang elements, the fentanyl that's coming across. And I think, again, the president took a good step earlier this month because Congress for 45 years has failed to act on this. And
Trump managed to figure it out without Congress.
Well, we still had millions of people over those 4 years crossing that border. It's a dereliction of duty from this Congress that has failed to act, failed to change our asylum laws. To Katie's point, they presented themselves.
You don't need Congress. You need Remain in Mexico, Title 42, the 84 executive action.
Well, that was a COVID situation with Title 42.
Not Remain in Mexico, not the 84 executive action.
And a lot more remaining in Mexico with partnership with the Mexican government, with Joe Biden negotiating that. But to Katie's point, these individuals presented themselves at the border, said the right words. Okay, we fear for our lives.
They committed fraud.
Okay, committed fraud and are in this country. So we need to do something certainly about that situation, 100%.
Yep. Those mothers, those daughters would still be with us if not for the direct failure of your government. So there's that.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.